Tiger I, a machine weighing more than 50 tons that became one of the most feared tanks of World War II. When it entered combat in 1942, its greatest advantage was simple. It could destroy many enemy tanks before they got close enough to fight back. Its main weapon was the powerful 88mm gun. A well-placed shot could penetrate the armor of many Allied tanks from long distances, and while its gun kept the enemy at a distance, its own armor made returning fire much less effective. The front of the hull had around 100mm of armor. For an enemy crew, encountering a Tiger head-on could mean facing a tank capable of firing first and surviving the shot that came back. But all that strength hid a massive problem. The Tiger was heavy, expensive, and mechanically complex. Burning through fuel was easy. Transporting it was difficult, and when something broke, getting more than 50 tons moving again could become a nightmare. Germany produced only a little over 1,300 units. So, despite its enormous reputation, the Tiger never existed in sufficient numbers to dominate the battlefield on its own. It was extremely dangerous when it was working and in the right place. The problem was keeping it working and getting it to the right place. Panther. It appeared after the Germans encountered an opponent that surprised them in the Soviet Union, the T-34. The Germans recognized the advantages of sloped armor and developed a tank that combined this concept with a powerful high-velocity 75mm gun. The sloped frontal armor increased its protection without relying only on increasingly thicker armor plates, and its gun could engage virtually any Allied medium tank from long distances. On paper, the combination was impressive. Protection, firepower, mobility. But the first Panthers reached the battlefield before they were completely mature. Mechanical problems quickly appeared. The transmission, engine, and other components could fail, and during its first major battles, some Panthers were lost without the enemy even having to destroy them. Over time, many of these problems were reduced, and then the Panther began showing what it was truly capable of. A fast tank for its size, heavily protected from the front, and equipped with one of the best anti-tank guns in its class. But it remained a sophisticated machine in a war that demanded thousands of vehicles. Because building one excellent tank wasn't enough. You had to build many of them, and the Americans understood that extremely well. Sherman. It didn't have the armor of a Tiger. It didn't have the same firepower as a Panther, but it had one advantage that no one-on-one duel could reveal: numbers. Nearly 50,000 Shermans were produced during World War II. It was relatively reliable, easier to maintain, and perfectly suited to a massive logistical network. If it broke down, there were spare parts. If it needed fuel, there was an entire system designed to supply it. If one was lost, another could arrive. And the design was extremely adaptable. The Sherman received different weapons and was transformed into numerous specialized variants. That made it more than just a tank. It was an industrial platform for war, and that was its true strength. A Tiger might have been much more terrifying when it appeared in front of you. But the Allies could put Shermans almost everywhere. Europe, North Africa, Italy, the Pacific. The Sherman didn't need to be invincible. It needed to keep coming. And on the other side of Europe, another tank was being built in equally astonishing numbers. T-34. When it appeared in front of the Germans on the Eastern Front, some of its characteristics came as a surprise. Sloped armor, wide tracks, good mobility, and a design suitable for mass production. Its wide tracks helped the vehicle deal with exactly the things that could destroy the mobility of many machines. Mud, snow, rough terrain. On the Eastern Front, that mattered enormously. Early versions primarily used a 76.2mm gun. Later came the T-34-85, equipped with a larger turret and an 85mm gun. But perhaps its greatest weapon wasn't inside the turret. It was inside the factories. The Soviet Union managed to produce T-34s in enormous numbers, even after losing territory and being forced to move part of its industry away from the German advance. The design didn't need to be luxurious. It needed to be produced quickly. It needed to reach the battlefield. And it needed to keep moving forward. The T-34 had limitations. The interior was cramped. The ergonomics were far from perfect, and manufacturing quality could vary. But when thousands of them keep appearing, mathematics starts becoming part of the battle. Panzer IV, the Tiger and Panther, became more famous. But the Panzer IV did something neither of them managed to do. It was there practically from the beginning to the end of the war. Its design existed before the conflict and was continuously modified as its enemies changed. More armor, new equipment, more powerful guns. The early versions were very different from the later ones, and that ability to adapt was exactly what kept the Panzer IV relevant. Later variants received a long-barreled 75mm gun that allowed them to fight much more modern enemy tanks. It fought in France, in North Africa, in the Soviet Union, in Italy, and in Western Europe. It wasn't as heavily protected as a Tiger. It didn't have the Panther's sloped frontal armor, but it was a proven platform. It was already in production, and it could continue to be improved. While Germany's more famous designs tried to achieve extraordinary performance, the Panzer IV simply kept working. Churchill. It wasn't built to race across the battlefield. It was built to keep moving forward. It was a British infantry tank designed to accompany troops and cross difficult terrain while providing heavy protection. That's why it looked so different. Long hull, massive tracks, relatively low speed, and a lot of armor. In later versions, its protection became extremely heavy for a tank of that period. But one of the Churchill's most interesting characteristics was its adaptability. The vehicle became the basis for specialized variants designed to perform tasks that a conventional tank would struggle with. Destroying fortifications, overcoming obstacles, helping clear paths, operating across difficult terrain. It didn't need to be the best tank hunter of the war. It needed to survive while doing exactly what it had been built to do. And sometimes destroying another tank wasn't even an armored vehicle's main purpose. In other cases, it was exactly the opposite. Tank destroyers. The idea was to remove some of the features of a conventional tank and focus the vehicle on one mission: destroying enemy armor. Many designs completely abandoned the rotating turret. The gun was mounted directly into the vehicle's superstructure. This could reduce the vehicle's height, simplify construction, and allow extremely powerful weapons to be installed. The Germans had vehicles such as the Jagdpanther and Jagdpanzer IV. The Soviets developed machines such as the Su-85 and Su-100. The Americans followed a different philosophy with vehicles such as the M10 and the extremely fast M18 Hellcat. Each country tried to solve the same problem in a different way. Some focused on armor, others on firepower, others on speed. Because there is an unavoidable trade-off. The more armor you add, the more weight you create. The bigger the gun, the more space and structure you need. The more speed you want, the harder it can become to carry heavy protection. A tank destroyer was a specialized machine, and specialization means being extremely good at one task while accepting limitations in others. But not every armored vehicle needed to destroy something. Some simply needed to discover where it was. Reconnaissance vehicles, smaller, lighter, faster, and with a completely different mission from the armored giants: find the enemy. Before a tank force advanced, someone had to discover what was waiting ahead. Roads, bridges, enemy positions, obstacles, troop movements, possible ambushes. Different light vehicles and armored cars were used for this purpose. Many used wheels instead of tracks and could travel quickly along roads. Their mission wasn't to find a tiger and start a duel. It was to find the tiger first, transmit its position, and get out. That's why the radio could be just as important as the gun itself. Information allowed commanders to decide where to attack, where to stop, and where to concentrate their forces. They had less armor, smaller weapons, and they were hardly the most intimidating vehicles in a photograph. But seeing the battlefield before the enemy could be worth more than dozens of extra millimeters of steel.